Those accused of witchcraft during the Salem witch trials were said to have performed many different wicked acts. They partied with Satan. They flew, they cursed and afflicted people, they transformed into beasts. And worst of all, they murdered people who frequently were reported to come back as ghosts and demand vengeance. Welcome to The Thing About Salem. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
I'm Sarah Jack. Today we discuss the actions witches were believed to take.
Yeah, what exactly did the people of 17th century New England accuse the witches of doing?
According to many accusers and confessors, witches were recruited by Satan or by people he'd already made witches. This belief in satanic witchcraft dates back centuries and was crystallized in Europe in the 15th century by the development of the cumulative or elaborated theory of witchcraft.
According to this theory, all witchcraft was diabolical, and all powers granted to witches came from Satan.
Witches were believed to betray God by abandoning his church in favor of Satan's church.
Samuel Parris raged against the supposed devils in the Salem Village Church, the witches who had signed the church covenant only to turn around and put their names in the devil's book.
Satan marked those he claimed as his own, hiding a witch's mark or teat somewhere on the witch's body. Upon physical inspection, several of the Salem accused, including Rebecca Nurse, Bridget Bishop, Elizabeth Proctor, and George Jacob Sr., were found to have supposed teats or marks.
When a recruit joined the witches, they signed the devil's book, which echoed the covenant that new church members signed in Puritan New England. On March 2nd, 1692, Tituba confessed to making a mark in the devil's book with something red like blood.
Satan's recruits, in turn, loved to recruit more witches for him.
And many witches were baptized by Satan. Mary Lacey Sr. testified to witnessing the devil baptize 6 witches at Falls River, and other confessors claimed to have been baptized in the Shawshun River or at Newberry Falls. Some were even baptized in Martha Carrier's well.
Witches gathered at Sabbats, where they drank blood wine and ate red bread in a mockery of the Christian sacrament. On April 19, 1692, Magistrate John Hathorne asked accused witch Abigail Hobbs if she'd been to any great meetings, and she denied it. The next day, though, facing new questions, Abigail said she was at a great witch meeting in Salem Village, held right in the minister's pasture. Abigail ate red bread and drank red wine at this meeting.
In New England, Satan's main purpose in recruiting witches was said to be to tear down the Christian church.
The witches in New England supposedly wanted to begin this project in Salem Village, where strife and conflict were rampant, particularly in relation to the controversial pastor Samuel Parris. On July 15, 1692, Anne Foster said that at the Salem Village witch meeting, the witches discussed setting up the devil's kingdom.
The witches intended to fan out from Salem and spread their blight right across New England to return the land to the devil. Richard Carrier told the magistrates of this scheme to put the devil on his throne on July 22nd, 1692. And Richard was one of Martha's son, and he had been actually tortured into making that confession.
Witches attacked Christ's kingdom by creating chaos and discord among his people.
The witches did this in a variety of ways. One method was to afflict people through harmful magic known as maleficium. Witches would sicken people, like they supposedly did with the afflicted people of the Salem witch trials, the people like Betty Parris, Abigail Williams, Ann Putnam Jr., and Elizabeth Hubbard.
Also, many so-called murders were pinned on those accused of witchcraft. Witnesses reported seeing the ghosts of murder victims who urged them to tell all to the magistrates. Many of these ghosts were dressed in winding sheets, and during the examination of Martha Carrier on May 31st, afflicted persons said they saw 13 ghosts in the courtroom, representing 13 people who had died in a smallpox outbreak that was blamed on Martha.
And witches especially enjoyed harming children. We see that with witchcraft persecutions today. We've seen it throughout history that if something goes wrong with people's children, they worry about it and a witch hunt can happen.
Witches also spoiled food, destroyed crops, and attacked livestock. They caused milk to turn colors and have strange tastes. They injured animals or made them sick, often killing them. And they raised storms to pound fields with hailstones.
One key factor in the rapid growth of the Salem witch trials was the acceptance of spectral evidence. Witches' specters were believed to be able to separate from their bodies. These spirits could travel great distances to harm people, animals, and property. And those arrested for witchcraft were shackled in jail because the colonists believed that metal would prevent specters from roaming free. But this apparently did not work.
They could travel spectrally or physically upon poles.
There are tales of them flying upon poles to their sabbats and the pole actually snapping and the witches struggling, even falling to the ground on their way into the meeting. Witches had familiar spirits, usually in the guise of animals, but sometimes as strange amalgamations of different animals. John Louder, for instance, claimed to see Bridget Bishop's familiar, a monkey-like creature with rooster feet and a man's face.
These familiars assisted the witches in their misdeeds. In return for their services, witches fed familiars through devil marks or witches' teats.
During the trials, committees were appointed to search the suspected witches for teats. Rebecca Nurse contested the findings of the jury of midwives who had inspected her and called for a new inspection by more experienced women.
Accusers loved to report harsh words as curses. Martha Carrier reportedly told Benjamin Abbott she would stick to him like bark to a tree and told him he would regret a land deal she disapproved of before 7 years were up.
Well, we mentioned that witches could change weather to destroy crops. They could also raise storms at sea to sink ships. Samuel Endicott testified that Mary Bradbury cursed the ship that he was on, which was damaged by a violent storm. And Mary Warren claimed that Alice Parker had cast a ship away, resulting in the death of John Lapthorne.
Witches knew what could happen in the future, except for apparently not seeing the trials coming. Samuel Wardell and Dorcas Hoare were known as fortune tellers.
Witches could even know what people said in private. George Burroughs, former Salem village minister now preaching in Maine, was accused of commenting on a conversation he could not have heard naturally between his wife and her brother.
And accused witches, the Parsons and Margaret Jones, had these same types of accusations decades before.
Yes, back in 1650s and 1640s even, this accusation was going around in Massachusetts. Witches could shapeshift. Sarah Good allegedly appeared as a wolf to Elizabeth Hubbard.
They stole. Bridget Bishop was accused of making money disappear from people's pockets.
And witches liked to come into men's rooms at night and sit on their chests. Though these were really phantom visits brought on by sleep paralysis. Bridget Bishop was one of the men's favorites for this variation of the hag ride or the original nightmare.
Records from the Salem accusations show that witches were believed to brew potions, which made authorities suspicious of ointments such as those found in Martha Corey's house.
And puppets were used by witches to inflict pain upon enemies. A puppet could be poked, squeezed, burnt, or otherwise abused in order to cause injuries to the target. According to the remaining records from the Salem witch trials, witches were busybodies. They undertook many activities to disrupt the lives of their Christian neighbors. In exchange for joining his army, the devil often promised rewards like money and fashionable clothing. Unfortunately for those recruited, the devil never delivered on his promises and utterly failed to protect his servants from trial and execution.